Welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight. I'm Judith Kober, and today I have two wonderful guests. One is Sherry Swiney. She has been a guest on this show as well, and she co-authored the book that she has written with Jerry Marzinsky. He has also been on the show a couple of times. So I'm very happy to have them here. Today we are not going to talk about hearing voices. We are going to have a look at the state of the nation in the USA. So, Sherry, welcome, and Jerry, welcome.
Thank you, Judith. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, yeah, interesting times.
Very much so.
So one thing I would say, especially since we, Jerry, had the conversation about American turmoil a couple of months ago. And yeah, we can't completely ignore it. So Trump is not president. We all know that. And they have...
that's not technically true. He has never, the military sees him as president. He is the commander in chief.
How do you know that?
It's all over the place. I mean, he was writing executive order. You're not going to get it on mainstream media, I'll tell you that. So what we have here is the mainstream media who's detracting everything. I mean, they're putting out their narrative, their propaganda. And then you have an army of what they call digital soldiers who grab onto whatever news they can get because the military isn't allowing a lot of leaks. So there are some military men who are allowed to speak, like John O'Sullivan, who gives as much information as he can. And then a bunch of anons who are doing research and come up with all these things. So right now we have two presidents. We have the president-elect, which is this fool Biden, who's, and then you have Trump, who has never conceded the election. He is in charge of the military. The military see him as the leader.
Yeah, so I have heard that as well, but nobody so far has really substantiated that. So I'm wondering if there is a lot of wishful thinking in that. What do you think, Sherry?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I've been following it somewhat. I get my information through Jerry because I don't seek it out because I'm not focusing on who's president and who's not president. I'm focusing on what they're doing to the people. And, you know, I now and again watch Uncle Joe on the YouTube, some of his presentations, and they're
when he is buffering.
Yeah, they're just so painful to watch. You know,
I agree.
Wow. This is the guy who's representing this country. Come on now, you know. But yeah, and the people that I am in contact with see it the same way. That and I think that probably most Americans see it the same way, but I can't vouch for that. But yeah, so I hear the rumors that President Trump has never lost the presidency. You know, I totally agree that the election was stolen. But then when I see the evidence and then you bring it to court, and the courts are bought and paid for, they're so corrupt, they're not going to hear it.
That's why the military took over. Exactly the reason.
Well, see, I don't know that that's true, but you know, I can't prove it, and I've told you that it would be nice to see some proof.
Well, I watched 2 days ago. I watched an interview that what's his name? He's the special forces guy with the bald head. He spoke of having spoken to people who were flown in by the military to the White House to take part in the tribunals. But I'd never heard from one firsthand until this lady yesterday. She came on, she'd been trafficked for 10 years.
What tribunals?
There are tribunals going on in Gitmo. There's tribunals going on in the White House.
There are no tribunals in Gitmo, Jerry. Please, there are no tribunals. There is no Hillary
tribunals.
Clinton behind bars. There is nobody in Gitmo. Nobody.
The flights to Gitmo.
The suspects that have been sitting there for years, but there are no pedophiles in Gitmo. There are no human traffickers in Gitmo.
The flights to Gizmo have increased 90%. Watch the guy who does the flight tracking, Monkey Works. Mm-hmm. He'll show you those flights that are going in and out of these prison sites. That doesn't mean
there are prisoners on board.
It doesn't mean that they are not. Have you seen evidence that there is not? You got just as much evidence as there is not as I have that there is. They say it's overflowing.
I haven't seen evidence in the real world that something like that is going on.
And you're not going to see it.
That is the evidence that I personally require.
Well, you're not going to see it from mainstream media. You can go to, there's several sites you can go to. Red Pill 78. You can go to John 107, who's the military guy.
That is one of the biggest scammers ever. John 07 or whatever, 007, yeah. That is not a credit.
There's also videos of kids coming out of the White House late at night about 2 months ago. Like 1 million cop cars there blinking, all these little kids coming out dressed in blankets.
Where is that video?
What's on the internet? Do a search for it, you'll see it.
Okay.
It's easy to find.
What's it called? Is that the camcorder that was videotaping the White House at night? That was last year.
Probably him, you know, because he's the one that has the apartment over across the street, I think, right? So
I don't know.
You can do a search on it. There was a bunch of cops there. The lights were blinking. There were buses bringing people out. There was a bunch of kids in blankets. You could see all that. And I should have got the name of those sites, but
well, maybe you could find them and send them on to Judith.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, that. And how old are these?
They were little kids.
What?
Little kids.
No, I mean that footage. How old is it?
Oh, the one where with the White House?
Mm.
I would say that was about 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. Maybe 4.
Oh, okay. The one I'm thinking of was, I think in 2020. I don't remember for sure, but anyway.
I don't think it was that old.
All
yeah,
right.
there are tribunes. They even have videos of, you know, these JAG guys going in and out of the White House with their briefcases and the lawyers and stuff coming in and out of there. Mm. They've got videos of buses with darked out windows that were pulled up in front of the White House at that point, and they filled them up and they drove away, but you couldn't see who was in there.
Yeah, and that means what?
Means there was something in there that they were taking out. And it looks like it was either the kids, they say there's a bunch of tunnels under the White House.
Yeah, Jerry, but as long as I have not seen that, and as long as
they don't want you to see that because they don't want these guys running away. That's what they're saying. They want to catch them all. They completely surrounded the White House with fencing. They just took it away.
Okay.
So it was a captured operation.
Yeah.
The White House and the Capitol.
So I would like to share something here. And yeah, now, okay, here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right, so we have something, you know, it appears that the Biden administration has a little beef with China, but now we read that China has bought an airstrip in Texas, and it is not just, you know, a little yeah, sandy thing. It's here. It is 200 square miles of land between one of the most active Air Force bases in the US and the border of Mexico.
I heard something about that. I also heard that the militia is moving in down there as of yesterday. Biden is China. I don't see why he'd have a beef with China.
I
They've
mean,
also
the
bought
narrative.
millions of acres of farmland over here also.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, the narrative. The narrative is that, you know, Biden is saying this about China and that and what have you. But on the other hand, I know his connections with China, and I found this really a little bit strange. What do you think, Sherry? What's going on here?
Well, this is the first time I've seen this article,
Okay.
so I can't really speak to it. I know that I've read that China has bought a whole bunch of land here in the United States. And of course, I understand the connection between China and Biden. So, you know, that's a pretty dangerous situation. And then to hear on the news that Biden has a little beef with China, you know, and there's rumors of, you know, China's going to, you know, attack us with a nuclear bomb and all that stuff. I think if you look at the situation in China per se, they are inundated with floods and bad weather, you know, very, very bad weather. They have dams that are threatening to collapse, and, you know, they've got their hands full with, you know, not being able to grow crops. And so they've taken a bunch of land in South Africa, and, you know, they're doing what they can to have the grounds to feed their population. So they're, you know, they're not in a good position to be starting a war here in the United States. That's my opinion. And it's based on the information that I've seen about this, the state of China. So I think that the leader of China his regime is under threat. You know, so he's being bombarded from many different sides, different countries who don't want to have anything to do with China. So, you know, and personally, I don't want to have anything to do with China either. You know, they're polluted, and, you know, they send over polluted goods and foods, and, you know, I'm sure that Biden and Bill Gates and all of those guys, they love that. The more the better, to poison us some more. So yeah, I don't know anything about this article. It's the first time I've seen it, so I really can't speak to that.
Yeah,
I did hear that they bought land near that Air Force base, and that was making a lot of people nervous. But as far as flying people in and out, that's news to me.
Allegedly, they bought it to build wind farms.
Well, they got a lot of wind farms there, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them.
Wind farms in Texas, that's what froze solid in the bad winter storm this last winter in Texas. So, you know, that was one of the many reasons that the people in Texas didn't have electricity. So, you know, the wind technology has a lot to be desired. You know, it's not what it's cracked up to be. I can see that it would work, but these big, huge windmills that they have along the highways that take up, you know, hundreds and hundreds of acres of stuff, there's a better way to do that. And, you know, because the windmills that are turning, you know, the birds can't see them. So they're, you know, they get chewed up in there. And, you know, but who cares about that, right?
I can't imagine the Chinese flying aircraft over here without them being spotted, and especially by Monkey Works and some of the others over there. But I did hear they bought land near that air base. You know, so
yeah, does that article talk about why?
Yeah, that is why they are speculating, especially since this Chinese general had very tight connections to the Chinese concentration camps.
Well, they built a bunch of FEMA camps. I do know that. That isn't good.
There's been FEMA camps on this soil for, as far back as I can remember.
Yeah.
I was hearing about them, 20, 30 years ago. And people thought,
I do know the Department of Homeland Security bought over 1 billion rounds of 9mm hollow point ammunition. That's not practice ammunition.
yeah, so did the post office.
The post office did too?
Oh, sure.
Oh, geez. So what are they going to do with 9mm hollow point ammunition? You can't find it out here. They pretty much dried up all the ammunition. Where you can find it, you can't find it anymore. It's hard to get and it's expensive. So that they're going after the guns as hard as they can. I heard, but I can't verify, that there were NATO vehicles in a warehouse in Virginia. That would be spooky. I heard there were NATO vehicles in the fires last year in California. That's spooky.
Well, just having UN vehicles on American soil is very disturbing.
Yes, yes. But one thing we can verify is the election fraud. If you want to go to something we can verify that. 168,000 illegal ballots.
Jerry, at the end of the day, I don't care because all elections are rigged. Yeah.
Well, this one was rigged.
That is my my conviction, and so I don't.
Well, it is true. Your conviction is true. This election was rigged to the core at many different levels. Not only
this, all elections are rigged, no matter where they are.
Right.
Yeah, even the Kennedy election when I was in my teens, I didn't know it at the time, but I've since looked into some of that, and so these are selections, not elections.
Yeah.
These guys are selected to be in office.
Right.
And there's somebody did a blood bloodline connection.
Bloodlines.
Yeah, it goes all the way. Everybody's connected to everybody else in their bloodline.
Yeah, sure.
That's pretty remarkable. So yeah, these are selections. They're not elections. And the whole scenario of, well, if you don't vote, you can't complain. Well, if you do vote,
you cannot complain because
you can't complain because you're the one that put them in there. Well, you didn't really put them in there because they were selected anyway.
Yeah. Matter of fact, here in Pima County, that when I went to vote, all they had in there were those Sharpies. That when you use a Sharpie, it bleeds through, and when they go to read it on the computer, it comes out as indeterminate. So they set them aside and then they put them for whoever they want to vote for.
Yeah.
But there's 168,000 illegal ballots here in Arizona. 74,000 received ballots that were supposed to be mailed, but they didn't have any creases in them. So they just brought these big boxes of ballots and just dumped them in there. They caught one lady on video just running the ballots over and over and over back. They cheated at many, many different levels. And they paid off so many different the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors completely paid off, completely. They blocked the audit in every possible way they could. The Department of Justice sent over some agents, and the Senate leader here in Arizona said, go ahead and send them. You can bail them out of an Arizona prison. So the Senate is standing up to these fools. And the Board of Supervisors, it still has not turned over the routers, but they have it. They have where all those routers went, when they sent the stuff, and Len Wood is going to come out in a couple of weeks with all that information presented over public television. Yeah. They have all the tracking, where those votes went, where they went to the Vatican, they went to Germany, they went to Spain, they went to NATO nations, which was a shocker. Yeah. And they have it in real time, where it went, the IP addresses of where where each computer was, where they were located. I mean, they have it all.
Yeah. Okay. So I read today that people are speculating in mainstream media that Biden might resign very soon. And then, of course, Kamala Harris will take over. And we had these situations where Kamala Harris and Joe Biden both, when they were still campaigning, and then they started talking about a Harris administration. So do you think there is a possibility that that has been the plan all along?
I think so. You know, matter of fact, Biden a couple of times said that he actually referred, he's half brain dead, so he actually referred to her as President Harris. You know, and she's in the background all the time. You can see her. She's just working him like a puppet, telling him what to say, what to do. You know, he can't string a sentence together without getting in trouble. So yeah, I think that is their plan, is to get him out of there and put her in. And she's probably functioning as right now, but you got Obama behind the scenes running the show from some closet somewhere. So, and who's running him? I don't know. It's, you know, Soros, the Chinese. It just goes to so many different levels. It's amazing how deeply they have infiltrated the political system here, all the way down to the city level. You know, they bought off city judges, they bought off federal judges, they bought off the board of supervisors in Phoenix. It's incredible how many people they bought off.
So, Sherry, what do you think? Is it possible that that has been the plan all along?
Well, anything's possible. Absolutely. And I had heard that too. And I shudder to think of what it would be like with her in charge. But, you know, there are movements going on in this country. There's the big, the Sheriff Mack is running a campaign where he's going around the country and he's talking to other sheriffs. And, you know, the sheriff in this country has more power than the President of the United States. And there was a US Supreme Court case that Sheriff Mack took to the court, and he won because the courts had misinterpreted what the Constitution says. So the sheriff, the county sheriff, and there's thousands and thousands of counties in this country. Each county sheriff needs to know what their power is, and that's Sheriff Mack's
teaching them.
That's his motivation. That's his journey that he's on right now, and he is teaching them, and he's making some good progress, because a lot of sheriffs don't know.
What is he teaching exactly? Maybe not everybody has heard about Sheriff Mack.
Yeah, he's teaching them what the Constitution is, because surprisingly enough, a lot of sheriffs don't even know what the Constitution says. In fact, a lot of US citizens don't even know what the Constitution says.
Yeah.
You know, they come up with some BS of what the Constitution says, and that's not what it says at all. So, because they're not teaching that in school anymore, you know, that's just, it's not important. It's just boring civics, right? And so there's no interest in the school system for most people. And so their parents probably don't know the Constitution either, or if they did, they teach their children, right? So anyway, so he's going around the country and he's teaching the sheriffs what the Constitution says, what their responsibilities are, and what their actual powers are. So a lot of them are taking notice, and they're standing up saying, okay, you know, if they do some mandatory jab or do in this county, we're not going to allow you to do that. I don't care if you're the US government. I don't care if you're working under presidential order. You know, I don't care if you come in with an army, you're not doing it. So
it just happened in Los Angeles, you know, where the board, the medical board in Los Angeles said they want everybody to mask up again. And the sheriff said, I'm not enforcing it. You can scream over the airways all you want. I'm not enforcing that.
Yeah, so what they're doing is like, if you want to wear a mask and you know that, here's the dangers of wearing a mask, and you can take that or leave it, you can believe it or not. So it's your choice. If you want to wear a mask, you can wear a mask. But if you don't want to wear a mask, you don't have to. It's not going to be mandatory. So, when this whole thing first came down, I went and bought Sheriff Mack's book, and I sent it to my sheriff with a note saying, here's what's coming down. I'm sending you this book to please read, and I want to know where you stand. And then I've since spoken to other people who know the sheriff personally, and they say that he's not the type of guy that would let this happen. And I hope that they're right. I haven't gone in person to meet with him. I probably should do that and have a face-to-face with him, because he's the person to talk to. The sheriff, the county sheriff, is the person that people should talk to and say, hey, have you seen this? Do you know that you have the power to refuse these dictates? And then if you're given a choice, what will be your choice? Are you just going to roll over and, let them run all over you? Or are you going to say, no, I'm not going to enforce that? Because if he says, or she says, I'm not going to enforce it, there's nothing that anybody can do other than shoot him. And if that happened, that would be a horrible uproar. So they would have to kill the citizens and the sheriff to make it mandatory. Well, that's not saving your life, is it?
And you got all the school boards standing up to these board of school boards that are making kids wear masks and teaching this critical race theory stuff. Yeah. And then they're saying, screw you, Matter of fact, up the road here, they got rid of the entire school board. They just got rid of them just like that, threw them all out. But there's school boards across the country that are standing up to this bullcrap now.
Yeah, I saw a short video clip of it is one of the hosts from The View. That seems to be a very popular morning show, or during the day, I don't know. And one of these hosts, she said, well, the Second Amendment was only implemented to keep slavery going. And that is, oh my goodness, that hurts. How can you be so stupid and you're sitting on TV and displaying your stupidity to millions of people? And I thought, oh my goodness,
The sad part about that is that there will be Americans who will believe that.
That is what I thought as well. And but no fact checker coming. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. No, the fact checkers who are owned and paid for by the Gates Foundation and the pharmaceuticals who are pushing this whole thing, they're not going to fact check any lies. They're only going to fact check the truth.
Yeah, sure.
So I've been fact checked, I don't know how many times on Facebook. I'm surprised I haven't been kicked off yet. But so I opened up I really had a battle with them a few weeks ago. And so I opened up a Gab account and I started posting there, and I sent a note around to everybody that that's what I'm doing, but I'm still going to post on Facebook for as long as I can, because that's where most of my contacts are. Former colleagues and family and friends and stuff like that. So anyway, I get fact checked all the time that I can send something that is from the CDC website and the fact checkers will call it false information. How ridiculous is that? So so we talked about earlier offline that CDC has decided to
abandon the
PCR test. Yeah, that's a good thing. It only took 18 months.
After scamming for months and months and months.
The question is, what will replace it, and is it any better?
Well, what you have now is all these people that have already been vaccinated coming down with the virus over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we all know the PCR test cannot say if you're infected or not, and much less it can tell you if anything that it has found will make you sick in the future or not.
That's true.
And Carrie Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test, said it multiple times. And of course, they waited until he was dead.
And it's interesting to me that he died just a month or so before this broke out.
Yeah.
So the timing was perfect. And it makes me wonder. I'm not accusing, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
If his death was,
Very timely.
He was, he was a guy with a lot of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he would have been on the roofs yelling it from the rooftops.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you.
Well, he did. There are some articles out by him, saying, hey, this is bullcrap. Well, now they're going after McAfee. They want you to think he's dead because he's planted information gathering stuff in all the computers he gave to the federal government. So he's got a lot of information that they don't want out.
Yeah.
And terabytes of it.
So now, what is your impression? Is the USA still very, very polarized?
Yes.
As a society, I mean.
Well, the Republicans are in the majority, but the Democrats control the mainstream media. So they make it look like they're a majority. They're not. If you look at the rallies that Biden holds, there's hardly anybody there. There might be 20, 25 people there. I've seen some of his things where he went around the bus where there was nobody there. He was speaking to empty chairs. When Trump gives a rally, you've got thousands of people there and thousands waiting to get in. So yeah, there's a polarization. There's the people who are working, they have families, they have a job, they get up, they go to work, they have the kids to deal with, they fix dinner, they're dead tired, they turn on the mainstream media TV, they get brainwashed, they go to bed, and that's what they believe. And there's thousands and thousands of them that swear by what the mainstream media says without looking at any other source.
Sherry, what would you think is the biggest division? What is the one that gives you the most headache?
Well, the one that gives me the most headache?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the gullible people in this country. They're so gullible, and it's really not their fault, I don't think, other than laziness. But I think even the laziness is not entirely their fault because it's part of the MK Ultra brainwashing.
Yeah, they've been
mechanism. And it's having been brainwashed myself and gotten myself out of that, I see the brainwashing techniques that they're doing in this country and around the world too, but we're focusing on the US here. And so when you scare people, they become, you can't think straight. And that's when they zoom in on the new propaganda. Yeah. And so the people who are not aware, who are frightened out of their mind, which is, really a shame, they don't want to hear anything like the truth. They just don't want to hear it. They got it from TV. TV told them to be scared. You would think they would have learned from 9/11 and,
no.
Those, all the other terrorist attacks. You would think they would have learned by now, but they haven't. So, they're all brainwashed and there's nothing that can be done about those people. But what I'm seeing is a lot of free-minded thinking people.
There's a lot of people waking up, a lot.
Yes, they are waking up. And I think what's happened is the more that the government pushes these ridiculous mandates, and the more people are like, no, I don't think I want to, you know, that's really over the top. And then they'll start to wake up a little bit and a little bit more. And maybe they'll be more open to seeing information that is pointing them to, you know, hey, look at this. This is the truth about the jabberdo. This is the truth about the masks. This is the truth about the testing. And oh, by the way, there's all these FEMA camps waiting for you if you don't comply. But the thing is, then I see people who are saying, hey, they're not going to force me to take that jabberdo. They'll have to kill me and my family first. That's how I stand.
Yeah.
And but in the meantime, what I'm seeing is some really good activity going on here in this country from free-minded thinking people. They're starting to grow their own food because they know that there's a staged food shortage coming. And this is, you know, I mean, the government has decided to, excuse me, pay subsidies to farmers for not growing their food. And then if they refuse, well, then they won't get whatever the funding was that they were getting to grow their food. So they're kind of in a vice of, you know, what do I do? So they either don't grow their food and get some money, or they do grow their food and they lose out because they can't afford to raise their food.
I've heard they got truckloads of food rotting that they won't allow to be shipped.
Yeah, so think about, of course, you have to put into this factor, this equation, the weather that's going on. And it's not global warming, folks. It's the sun. It's not made by man. It's the sun. And, you know, anybody that says that'll be fact checked is that's a lie. But we have umpteen tons of evidence that points to it's the sun. I mean, because there's, as far as we know, there's no people on other planets in the solar system, and they are having the same kind of problems we are having with their.
Every planet in the solar system is heating up, every single one, but they won't tell you that. Because NASA comes out and they'll say one at a time, months apart. They're all heating up all at the same time.
Well,
Yeah.
the sun is,
are we not headed for a solar minimum and are already in the beginnings of that?
yes, we are. We're in the grand solar minimum right now. So there's a good YouTube channel. It's called Suspicious Observers, and I'll just give them a nice plug because they do a wonderful job of educating people about the sun. And they're on every single day. Their videos are only 5 minutes long, 4 or 5 minutes long. And so, they'll leave a list of all the documents for people to do more research on their own. That's the nice thing about this. You can tune in every single day for 5 minutes. And then if you want to follow up, you can go get your head filled with all kinds of facts and stuff like that. So they do a really good job, and I watch them every single day. And sometimes I'll pass one of their more poignant videos onto my Facebook page. And some people will look at them and some people won't. But yeah, so that's in the equation. And, you know, I'm assuming that the people that are running this show know this stuff, and they have known it for a long time, even though they might deny it. So I don't know if the culling of the people on the planet is to make it easier to handle when this disaster comes. I have no idea what's on their mind. It's not good. So yeah, but what I'm seeing here are people who are deciding to take care of their families themselves, to be independent, as independent as possible.
Yeah.
Now, Catherine Austin Fitts, you know who she is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a wonderful person, and she was on a show not too long ago, and she was suggesting that, you know, they're trying to push a cashless society.
Yeah.
Because then they can control all of your spending. So if you don't get the jabber due, then, you know, they can get into your digital account and prevent you from surviving, basically. So we don't want to get rid of cash. So she suggested that, okay, let's do this. Every Friday, we'll call it a Cash Friday, and everybody around the world will use cash on that Friday.
I use only cash every day. I don't
Yeah.
need a Friday for that.
Well, but most people do. Most people do. I mean, I use a credit card a lot. But on Fridays, I use cash.
Well, that's why they want to get rid of McAfee, because with those kind of Bitcoin systems, they can't track what you got or how much money you got or your transactions. You know, they don't want that. They want to be able to see every penny you make.
I'm not so sure that that is not possible. I know that is how it is being promoted, but actually, I'm not really sure if that is not possible, because
blockchain.
Who's going to say that, let's say, Bitcoin was not a CIA operation?
Well, Bitcoin is already infiltrated by the government.
Yeah.
I mean, that's widely known. There are a few, there's two coins, or two, they're not coins. They're the people that you buy from. There's Monero, and then there's Pirate Chain. Those are the two I've heard of, who are supposed to be totally private. I don't know how they work, because I did a little bit of investigation I thought, well, okay, so I could maybe get into one of these digital coins for a while, make some money, and then pull out and you know, turn it into cash, or turn it in, you know, use that to purchase, you know, solid goods. And but then, since I don't have a cell phone, I can't get in. So
Yeah.
They're going to go after all of those. They don't want anything outside of their system. That's why they don't want people buying gold. It's outside of their system. So they keep suppressing it over and over and over again.
Well, I've heard that Bitcoin is already infiltrated by the government. They're already in there. They already watch every purchase that you make. And so the ones that are not completely private, and I forget what the term is in the digital coin world, because I'm not in it, so I don't really know the terminology, but there is a term, fungible or something like that, where they can't get in yet, but that doesn't mean they won't be able to. So, you know, I have a funny feeling about digital currency, that anything on the computer can be hacked.
Of course.
Eventually, even the ones that are supposedly private right now, eventually they'll figure out a way to hack it. So, but I really like this idea of the cash gives you privacy. It can't be tracked. You can purchase what you want and nobody has to know. So, you know, I mean, yeah, the argument would be, well, what do you have to hide? I don't have anything to hide.
Well, as soon as you put it in the bank, it can be tracked.
Yeah, but when you take it out and you spend it, all they know is you took it out. They don't know where you spent it. So
Yeah,
that's a nice thing about, pardon?
They know you had it and they want their tax on it.
Well, that's neither here nor there. What I'm talking about is the freedom to purchase what you want, to do what you want, without somebody nosing in on your business every moment. You know, that's really, who likes that? I don't like it. I'm sure nobody likes that. And anyway, so but getting back to what I'm seeing in this country, I'm really seeing about 50% of the people in this country are waking up, and they are, you know, they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they're, you know, they're making moves, taking steps to be more independent. So that's a good sign to me. I don't know that we can beat this thing.
Oh, we'll beat it. Yeah,
Well,
you look at what's happening with the mainstream media now. CNN is down to like 54% of what they used to be. Twitter is on the ropes. You know, Facebook, Twitter. You know, people aren't trusting the mainstream media anywhere near as much.
yeah, but there are still a lot of people who are trusting it because they don't know any better.
Right.
And those are the people who will bring this whole thing down, in my opinion, because of their gullibility.
Not if they wake up, they won't.
No, those are the people that are totally gone.
Yeah,
These are
there's a
the
lot of
people
those.
who don't, yeah, these are the people who don't want to hear the truth. So if there's enough of those people who don't want to hear the truth, they'll bring this whole thing down, just as planned. But
Well, the truth is being thrown in their face, especially with the Arizona election. Now it's the Michigan. Now there's 20 states now that are considering doing their own audits, and that includes Republican states too. So Pennsylvania is moving ahead with an audit. Wisconsin is moving ahead with an audit. Texas is moving ahead with an audit. All Trump needs is the three states.
Yeah, but Trump is not our savior and is not your savior. Jerry,
you got a better chance with him than you
back into office or not.
You got a much better chance with him than you have with Merkel. You see what you're getting with Merkel, don't you?
Yes,
not even trying.
He's leaving office anyhow this fall.
And then they have another.
And the next idiot will come in and nothing will change. I know people here are very excited because we are having in September, we are having elections. I cannot get excited about that. It's still the matrix. You are still not out of the matrix.
No, not completely, but we're breaking out. Do you have some way to check the integrity of your elections? Is that done anyway? Or it's like, okay, we all go vote and this is who, this is the contrived guy we want in.
Jerry, here's where I'm coming from on this.
Jerry, as I said before, all elections are rigged, ours as well. I know exactly how they are doing it. They are putting out these so-called surveys, and then with those so-called surveys, a certain candidate gets pushed and pushed and pushed, and then, oh, what a surprise, the survey was correct. He or she won the election. Yeah, it's always the same shit.
Well, they're doing the same thing here.
Watch it anymore.
They've done the same thing here, but the people are no longer taking it. They're not taking it anymore. They're rebelling. But they are still thinking along the lines of if only we can vote in the right guys and girls. No, it's not about that. It will never work.
Yeah, the thing is, but here's what I think anyway, is I don't want to be voting for someone, so some new person to rule over my life. Yeah, it's like, so yeah. Why would I do that? I don't want to vote for somebody to rule over my life.
Yeah.
The government, the US government anyway, is an administrative entity. We hired our government to manage things.
And work for us. And they're not
doing it. Work for us. And they're not doing that, Jerry. They're not working for us. Trump was not working for us entirely. He did some good things, but he also did some things that we didn't hire him to do. Every single president has done that throughout our history, except, well, I don't know, even the first president was not entirely pure either. So,
well, you look what Trump did do. I mean, he sealed up the border. He sealed up the border. Now there's tens of thousands of people pouring across it every month. Yes,
that's true. That's very true, Jerry.
He took off the pharmaceutical industry.
But the point is, why would you vote for somebody to rule over you when that's not their job? That's not what we're paying them to do. We're paying them to administer the things that go on in this country, the big things like the roads and
infrastructure
and the protection of our borders and the big stuff. The rest is up to us if we would just get off our butts and do it. But the thing is, the people in this country have been coddled. And, I think we go through these cycles. We go through, if you look back in history, these are cycles of, we're all independent and we're all doing well and everybody's, flourishing, and not everybody, but most people are doing well. And, people are surviving and they're thriving. And then all of a sudden, some person gets in and says, I'm going to run this country for you and I'm going to do a better job.
Yeah, blah, really? Blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, the economy sinks down, interest rates go up. They invented, they've invented so many control mechanisms in this country, and people don't know because they don't know their history.
Yeah. So they changed the Constitution back in the 1800s. They actually changed it.
They actually believe that if they go to the voting booth and check on their favorite candidate that they don't really know much about, here's this new person that's going to rule this country, and that's not their job to rule this country. That's their job to be the head administrator of this country, according to what they're getting paid to do from us. They're our employees. They're not our bosses. They can't tell us what to do. They can't force us to do anything that's illegal. They can't force us to do anything that will harm us. And that's exactly what they have been doing.
That's exactly right. Especially with the vaccines. I mean, why would they be forcing vaccines down our throat with a 99.9% cure rate on its own? Why would they do something like that?
Well,
what is the mad push to have everybody injected? What is that? That is very suspicious.
Then explain to me, Jerry, why is Trump constantly saying folks have to get their double needle work?
He's not. Matter of fact, it came on
he is still saying that. Don't say no.
The reason he went for the vaccines, because he knew if there wasn't a vaccine, this pandemic would go for years. There had to be some kind of vaccine.
The pandemic was fake from the get-go.
Well, it was, and it was planned years ago, more than a decade ago. But he knew that if there wasn't some remedy, because they blew out the ivermectin, they blew out the chloroquine. Well, Trump pushed the chloroquine. He pushed it as hard as he could, and the mainstream media came up and went, "Oh, it's poison. People aren't. It's no good. People are going to die." And they also discounted the ivermectin. Both of those things are effective. No, they wanted people to take the vaccine, and they were pushing that as hard as they could.
Yeah. Okay. But he is still saying people have to get their jabs.
That's not what I saw yesterday. He was pushing only the Johnson & Johnson one, and that was it. But what he pushed was the chloroquine, and he was pushing the ivermectin.
And if
they were demanding a vaccine.
And if really he wanted to do something about free speech, he would have repealed that nonsense law that government and media is allowed to use propaganda against their own people. He could have repealed it. He did nothing.
He doesn't hold the House. He doesn't hold the House, and he barely holds the Senate if he still hasn't. So he's got fierce opposition from Chinese paid off and bought. Matter of fact, the Judge Roberts took not just billions, he took trillions of dollars in payments.
But Jerry, he didn't even, make it a subject, this nonsense law that came into effect, if memory serves, under the Obama administration.
It wouldn't have went anywhere because he doesn't
allowed to use propaganda and lie to you.
Yeah, see, he could have taken it to the public and said, "Hey guys, I can't get this through the House because they've all taken over. But here's the deal.
Exactly.
This needs to be repealed. It needs to come off the books because usually what we used to use, we still do. But the whole story is that, well, we used to use propaganda all over the world, for strategic purposes. And so now we think it's okay to use it on the American citizens. Well, he could have told the American citizens about this, because this was not main headline news. Oh, we passed this bill that propaganda is okay in the United States. We passed this bill that says that we can spy on you. We're allowing NSA to spy on your conversations, not just who you call, but we can look at your conversations. We can listen in on everything you're doing. So yeah, he could have told the American people this, that, yeah, I want to get rid of this, but of course, you know, I need you to write to your congressman and tell them if they don't, you know.
Well, you look at the Congress, they would oppose any move to
Yeah,
do
but
something like that.
that is not an excuse not to turn it into a subject.
That's right. And so,
Well, it was in the papers. It was all over the papers. You know, it's
What
clear.
papers?
The Patriot
Never made it
Patriot
a subject.
Well, the Patriot Act was another one that they passed. It had thousands of pages. It gave them permission to arrest anybody who, as a terrorist, that they deemed a terrorist, and hold them.
This was not in mainstream news, which is what most of the American people go for.
Well, I heard it. I heard it.
You probably heard it on some other news outlet. You didn't hear it on
Probably
CNN.
not on the mainstream. Yeah.
No, it wasn't in the mainstream. This is the problem. The mainstream.
Well, they don't. Trump doesn't run the mainstream.
But Trump
deep
has a
state runs
mouth
the
and he
mainstream.
can talk to the public, Terry. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It would have to be on alternative media. The mainstream wouldn't cover it.
that's the point. That's the whole point.
He has stuff like what is that? What he always does, State of the Nation or something like that, when he gives his speeches. Why not make it a subject there? Yeah, and that is televised.
See, the whole Patriot Act should have been repealed.
Yeah.
Because that took away habeas corpus, which is a huge deal. And the sad thing is most Americans don't even know what habeas corpus means.
What you got is Trump has been under severe attack since he went, even before he got in office. They've been hitting him like a kamikaze attack from all different directions, and they control the mainstream media. So he's got his hands full with everything, you know, just everything. I mean, the armed forces were a shamble when he got in there. He straightened out the border. We had the strongest border we ever had. Now it's a shame. People are just blowing through with tons of fentanyl. You know,
so another thing that pops up time and again, and I hope it will not come to this, but do you think there are still forces that would like to see a race war in the US?
Oh, shoot. That's what this all this stuff is, this critical race theory. That's what it's promoting. It's promoting a race war. And it has infiltrated the military. And the guy on the Space Force who brought that up and exposed it, they threw him out. So they have actually infiltrated the military with that, and they started teaching that in the military and have been. You know, so yeah, that's what this Black Lives Matter stuff is. You know, it's not like all lives matter, it's Black Lives Matter. It was funny that Lloyd.
If this system has taught me anything, then it is the following: no lives matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is how they are dealing with the population. So I don't know what this is all about. This system always has shown to me no lives matter.
Well, yeah, it's moving toward communism, like the communist Chinese. You look what they're doing. None of these flooded cities are getting any support from their government. You know, they send money, but it's only to rebuild. That's it. You know, they're rescuing people, but they have nowhere to go after that. You know, and the floods are horrendous. It's amazing that dam hasn't collapsed yet, that Three Gorges Dam. The reports are that it's leaking and it's cracked, but you know, it's still being inundated, and dams are collapsing all over the place now. So the floods over there are horrendous, but you won't see any of that on the mainstream media.
If it came to that, would that race war be, let's say, like going on and on and on for a month and month and month, or will it be quick and ugly?
It'd probably drag on.
Drag on.
Like it has now with Black Lives Matter up there in Oregon and Washington, where they destroyed those cities with their Black Lives Matter stuff. The head of the Black Lives Matter group was just arrested for fraud or something like that. She bought like 3 mansions or something to that effect. So they just got her.
The good communist that she is. Of course, she makes sure that she has a nice mansion.
Yeah, along with what is it? That one from Michigan, man.
You know, I have seen a lot of Black people who first bought into the Black Lives Matter thing and the critical race thing, but they've since realized that, oh, wait a minute, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And so they're speaking out, and that's a really good thing. And, you know, the whole race thing is a construct by our government to keep us divided.
Yes.
And, you know, when I was growing up, I grew up in San Francisco. It was a beautiful place then. It's gone to hell now, but it was, when I grew up, it was a beautiful place. There was, I grew up with my best friends. There was, we were called the Three Musketeers. One was Black and the other one was
Chinese?
No.
Indian?
Italian type of
European.
No, and ancestry was like, I forget what they called them back then. Filipino and not Filipino. Anyway, one of the darker races. And so the 3 of us were best friends. You know, we were hanging out all the time all together. We recognized that we had different color skin. It's like, you know, you get tan more than I do. You know, but it didn't matter. So that was my growing up period where there was no racism going on at all. When I
pretty
moved
much the same with me.
When I moved to the South, I was like, it was like moving to a different planet because especially in Alabama, where they had gone through the slave era. But I got a different story than I did at school in San Francisco about the slavery thing. What I got from the residents in Alabama, both Black and white people, was that, the Black people worked for the white people and they were happy. They were treated nicely. They were treated with respect. And that was throughout Alabama. And then by the time I got there, things had changed. So there was racism starting. And I thought the racism was all over with. I thought, well, okay, well, this is fixed and now everything's fine. When I got to Alabama, it's like, wait a minute. These guys are back in the, back in the old days, and that I learned in school, which wasn't correct. What I learned in school was not correct. Anyway, so the whole race thing, because the color of your skin doesn't tell you. It's the cover of a book. You can't judge a book by its cover. You have to read the inside. So that's how I was raised, and that's how I continue to think. That, it doesn't matter what color skin anybody has. It doesn't matter what kind of eyes they have. It doesn't matter what kind of nose they have or mouth they have or hair they have. That's the outside cover of the spirit within.
Yeah.
So, a person can be a good person and have white skin. A person can be a bad person and have white skin. And the same goes for every other race on this planet.
Exactly. I have traveled the world for many, many decades. And I can tell you one thing, I've met wonderful people all over the world and assholes all over the world. So
yeah. I haven't traveled all over the world, but I have traveled all over the country. and I've met many, many different people of all races. And yeah, they're either good or they're not. And that comes from within. That comes from their upbringing. That comes from their environment and what they're taught.
Yeah.
People only know what they're taught. And, you know, so therefore, I mean, when that's not an excuse. It's just a reality that people only know what
the government is fomenting that, especially the Democrats.
Absolutely.
Now they want people to pay, they want white people to pay a tribute to the blacks because of what the white people did back in the 1800s with slavery. I mean,
that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, but they're pushing it through, and there were some states, or California, I think, was actually going to do it. You know, it's crazy. And these people, they know nothing about that. And here they are being, and you know where that comes from. It comes from the taxpayer. You know, so here's all the taxpayers paying this insanity. It's nuts.
So where do you see the, let's say, the USA towards the end of 2021?
It's going to get more intense from here.
Okay.
I mean, they're exposing these people at a horrendous rate, like never before. So they're all coming out of the woodwork. They know who they are. You don't believe in the tribunals, but I mean, the underground here is ringing with it. It's ringing with, you see.
Jerry, if there were tribunals, don't you think it would be a good idea to give notice?
No, they don't want these guys running. They don't want these guys running. That's why they encased the entire.
Do you really think that if they want to find somebody that they can't? What nonsense is that? That is, well, you know, the same stupid nonsense as with Edward Snowden. Yeah, okay. He was in Hong Kong. He was in contact with Glenn Greenwald. Yeah, so the entire NSA wasn't able to find Edward Snowden in Hong Kong. Was simply not possible to find his hotel. Yeah, and they couldn't, and they couldn't hack the computer of Glenn Greenwald to find out where he might be. These are all bullshit stories.
Well, maybe, but you listen. Where has Clapper gone? You haven't heard anything from James Clapper at all. They say he's in Guantanamo. He's completely shut down. You don't hear anything from him anymore. Brennan, you don't hear anything from Brennan anymore. You don't hear anything from Comey anymore. They've completely shut up from going on mainstream media and running their mouths every day, putting down Trump, saying all this scam stuff. They've been completely shut up.
Yeah, okay. So I will check that if there is really nothing, because usually whenever you send me something, I can send you a link back 2 minutes later that that person is still around. But okay, I will check it out if these types are really no longer around. But Jerry, even if they are not around, there is no change. What has changed?
Well, they're going at what they started with the sex abuse and started with the low level ones. Okay. And they moved up and now they're at the intermediate and the higher level ones. So they've got the US by the throat and the people are just slowly ripping their fingers off of their throat. So people are waking up. There's a movement to get Trump back in, and what he said himself was, we're not going to wait till 2021.
Mr. Dr. Charlie Ward said that is such a scammer, that guy. He said he is coming back in August.
Well, there's a couple of them that said that.
Nonsense. He will not be back in August. No.
Maybe not. But if those 3 states, they proved that the votes were fraudulent, which they are, they got plenty of proof for that, then the whole election was fake and he won the election. Yeah, he has the votes.
We will see how that goes. And even if that is the case, let's say they kick creepy Joe out of the White House.
You got that right. He is a creep.
And Trumpy Trump comes back, the clown that they hired before the big show. That is what Trump is to me.
Well, we'll see.
And yeah, let's say he comes back. Yeah. So what?
We'll have a totally different form of government. You know,
Yeah.
That they're going to get rid of all these deep state guys. The problem is keeping them from getting back in again.
Well, in that equation, in that scenario, where does Klaus Schwab fall in? He's not in the United States, but he is the one who is promoting this big reset. And
Yeah.
how does that work if Trump gets in?
Well, he'll probably go after him. He's probably, I heard that they arrested Soros, but I don't know. Yeah, I've heard they arrested a lot of people, but who knows for sure other than they shut up.
See, I don't think that Klaus Schwab is the only character in town who's
You got the
promoting
communist
this.
Chinese, you got Soros, you got
No.
the
that's
pharmaceutical
It
industry.
even has a non-human level.
It has,
Mhm.
yeah, that's my point. And even so, the group that Klaus Schwab is running, that's promoting the Great Reset and making all these predictions so that we're ready for the next thing that's going to happen. Like, you know, he's taking the pandemic as a perfect opportunity to do a global reset where, you know, there's no more, they're going to do global governance. So there won't be any one person in charge. It'll be a global governance like the UN times 1,000, right? So everybody will be under control. Everybody will be governed. I don't want that.
No.
I don't think anybody wants that. So it's not just about the United States, of course. It's a global thing. So, but they're not the only faction doing this. There are other factions doing this, but they're not being the public puppet that the public sees. They're seeing Klaus Schwab. And so, you know, they think, well, he's the only guy who's running this global governance thing, and he's not.
You
The
got the
ones
Vatican.
that you see so exposed, they're you know, like a punching dog. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the puppet. They're the public face. And you know, it's like Bill Gates, who's going down, I hope.
Me
He's
too.
the public face. And Mr. Fauci is another public face, and they're going to go down. But that doesn't mean it's over with.
No.
It's the worst is yet to come. It's going to get more intense from here. You know, so when Trump gets back in, they're going to do everything they can. Matter of fact, it's reported they shut down that gasoline pipeline on the East Coast. You know, hackers, and then they came back on and said, "Oh, we're sorry, we won't do it again." Oh, come on!
But the thing is,
what's it going to take to wake people up?
The hackers did not shut down the pipeline. The hackers shut down the accounting department, and the guy who's running the gas company took advantage of that and called it hacking the pipeline. So therefore, they could shut down the gas for a little while, and that was another fraud.
Yes.
Because they did not hack into the gas line, they hacked into the accounting department.
Well, they shut it down.
They didn't shut it down. The guy that owned the company shut it down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway,
part of it.
There's enough people in this country who are moving out of the cities, who are starting to build their homesteads, who are probably in a minority right now. But there are enough people who are moving out that they're scattering all over this land, and there's a lot of land here in this country that's you know, not populated.
Yeah.
Well, there's also enough people awake right now that there's no going back. There's no taking this information back that they're exposing and going, it didn't happen like 2 years ago. where nobody was awake. Now people are awake. They see what's going on. They see the scam of the pharmaceutical industry. You know, they see what these scammers are doing. They see how much money they've stolen. What is it? Hillary Clinton's got like 7 giant mansions or something like that all over the United States. It's coming out now fast and furious. This information is just every day is new information. It's bam, 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 bam. There's no going back.
I met a woman at the grocery store this morning. I thought I'd get my groceries done before this interview. And so she was in line behind me and she was helping me get my stuff into my basket. And so we got to talking and she said, you know, she looked at the butter that I bought and she asked me if I liked it. And I said, yes. And she said, you know, my daughter likes that, but I don't. And I said, wow, you're the first person I met that doesn't like this particular butter. And so she said, you know, my mother used to churn her own butter. She said, I grew up on a farm and she used to churn her own butter. And I said, yeah. And I said, you know, a lot of people are going back to those days. And she said, yep, I can see why. So this is an ordinary person in my town who's seeing that there's a benefit of going back to the old ways. And I think that everybody should prepare for, you know, serious electrical outages and food shortages and, you know, be prepared like you would for a big storm, a big hurricane or a tornado or something like that. And, you know, if you have weapons to protect your property, all the better. But if you're way out in the middle of nowhere, they're not going to spend their resources coming after you.
Yeah.
They want the people in the cities. Because those are the dummies who, you know, they think that the city is the place to be when the city is probably one of the most dangerous places to be right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say the same. And especially, I guess, the inner cities, you know, where really a lot of people are cramped up. That because people, let's give it, I guess you don't even have to wait 3 days, but let's say it goes without food and electricity for 1 or 2 days. Oh, they will start eating each other.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, yeah. And then there are those who will have the guns and they will knock you over, you know, and maybe for a can of beans or whatever.
Yeah, now is the time for communities to start being built up if they aren't already built up, you know, where your neighbors can help you out and you can help them. And, you know, the day is going to come when that's going to be necessary. So, you know, it just, when it hits the fan, it's going to hit hard and it's going to hit hardest in the inner cities. And then it's going to branch out a little bit. And then, you know, it seems like when that's under control, because it will be under control by the government, because those people are brainwashed.
Well, what all these countries are saying, Russia has more gold than they've ever had. They said all that the Vatican has been emptied of its gold, that gold has been, our Fort Knox has been refilled again from these deep state thieves that took it all. So they're talking about a gold-backed currency. And all these countries
Who is talking about that? I don't hear that talk.
Oh, I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Again, it's on the underground media again. You know,
those are the QAnons, yeah?
The QAnons, Red Pill 78.
Yeah, they are to me a bunch of crazies. I really can't give that any legitimacy. Seriously.
Well,
no.
If you look at what they predicted and what came out, I mean, things are coming to play. Shoot, all this stuff. Matter of fact, you go back to these entries and they predicted what was going to happen this year, last year. So if you go to those sites, they'll point it out. They'll point it out to you. You know, so this appears to be unrolling in a
I
planned
said
out
it
way.
many times, I will say it again. Any and all savior program comes directly out of the dark occult. And any and all savior program is bullshit, be it a politician or whatever.
Yeah, there's a playbook
Yeah.
that they're going by. And if you know the playbook, you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what QAnon's pointed out.
But QAnon has the savior mentality. That's what
Exactly.
we're getting at.
Yeah.
QAnon may have predicted some of the things that are going on in the future, and they may have been right, but they're still with the savior mentality, which takes away the individual's power. It makes the person say, oh, I can sit back and relax because somebody else is going to take care of this for me.
No,
It's the biggest pacifier I have ever seen.
Well, the other thing they're hitting is saying, get out and get on your local boards, get into your political situations, run for your county seats. They get out and do, and people are doing it. You know, so they're starting to take things into their own hands. The school boards, what Arizona has done with the election, confronting this Katie Holmes, the Secretary of State, who's been blocking everything, threatening her with arrest. I mean, they're moving in that direction, and they know they need to take responsibility themselves. And they're bringing that up more and more and more, that we have to do it. There is no savior, and that Trump is not the savior. They're saying we have to do it as a people. And it's starting to happen.
But you cannot tell me that the QAnon movement didn't circle around and gathered around Trump. You can't tell me that is not the case.
Sure it did. Matter of fact, they asked him to run. They asked him to run. The military asked him to run. He didn't want to.
There are no white hats in the military, Jerry. And the military, if push comes to shove, will shoot on the American people.
Well, they did an inventory of that. I remember that. They asked the Marine Corps if they would do that. Well, then it will get very bloody because almost everybody here has a gun. You know, but the thing is, they got that armored equipment that there's little that we could do against that.
Yeah, and they also have sound weapons, or they torch your entire area. Then you've got nothing to shoot at.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You know, if they turn on us, we're done.
Now, I want to bring up the UFO thing. As you know, if this first they're going to come out with this brand new variant that's going to scare the you know what out of people because they don't know the truth about variants. I mean, how can you have a variant on something that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Anyway, so if these people aren't scared enough of this variant, they're going to pull the UFO card. And they've already pumped up the people on the mainstream media that the UFO guys, the entities that are out there, they're a national threat. And we know that that's not necessarily true because if they were a threat, they would have been a threat when they first arrived. They would have just destroyed the whole planet. And so that's my way of thinking.
Well, they had that on the planning board since the guy who invented the V2 rocket, what was the name, Eric Von somebody? I mean, on his deathbed, he said, yeah, that's what's going to happen. They're planning an alien invasion.
Braun?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said that would all be fake.
Yes.
It would all be a lie.
Yes,
so,
but they're planning it.
Yeah, that's part of the playbook.
Yep.
So, yeah, they're going to pull all kinds of tricks. They've been trying for, centuries to pull these tricks and get the people in line. And now that the technology is such that they've got satellites orbiting the planet, they can beam down, information, and who knows what else they can beam down. And they're going to blame it on the ETs. So, we do have the technology that is, equivalent or maybe not equivalent, but close to the ET technology for flying machines. And, you know, I mean, that's been pretty well, that evidence is pretty well proven.
Yeah, the TR3B, they've had it for
Yeah,
decades.
if these ETs were a threat to national security, we wouldn't be here talking.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. They'd be gone.
yeah, so that's all going to be a big ruse. And I wonder how many people in this country are going to fall for that, because a lot of people have been talking about that and warning. It'll probably just be the inner city folks that, you know, get surprised that, oh, I never heard of this, and all of a sudden we're being attacked from outer space. And it won't be them, it won't be the ETs, it'll be the governments with their new technology, you know, putting on a show, part of the playbook to get people in line. It's another, if you get people scared enough, then you can manipulate them very easily. And I just wish that people would, you know, the people who are so gullible, I wish they would turn off their TVs, because they would get well, they would be cured of the virus, they would be cured of all of that stuff, you know. If they just turn off their TV, you know, I mean, there is a
it kills a lot of the mind virus.
yeah, it does.
I saw a sign where the guy had, a protester held up the sign, said the media is the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that the only way you can actually get a virus is through the jabberdew. You know, because I don't think that the virus exists, or at least it has not been isolated. And I also think that the virus isn't something that you can catch. A virus is your body detoxing. And that's just, you know, that's my experience and that's my opinion. And it's the opinion of some pretty educated doctors too. So, you know, this whole thing is a complete ruse.
Yeah.
And I mean, but see, the thing is, we've gone for, I guess, 100 years or more, thinking that, you know, viruses are something that you can catch from somebody else. And they tried that with the, what was it, the 1918 flu?
Yeah, I have seen all those papers, and then you can even Johns Hopkins, that they have an archive there as well. But I have to say, I have been around, let's say, people with a horrible cold or a flu, and a couple of days later, I came down with the same shit. So how do you explain that?
I would explain that by maybe it wasn't a flu or a cold that they had. It might have been some other pathogen that they had that you breathed in. Or it might have been something in, if you were over at their place, it might have been something toxic in their house or something like that that you.
Or it could have been the flu. I mean, notice all the flu has disappeared. Everything's become.
The flu you can't catch from somebody else. The flu is not contagious. That's what I'm trying to get to. The flu is the body detoxing the poisons that are inside the body that we accumulate every single day. And when we get to this point of where there's enough toxicity in our body starts cleaning out, it starts detoxing, and that makes us feel really sick, depending on, you know, how healthy we are to begin with. So I would explain what you went through, Judith, as, you know, there could be some other pathogen that you picked up while you were in the presence of your friends. But, you know, I mean, if you, I mean, you know, I'm just saying that this is my opinion because I'm not a doctor.
Well, I don't know, Sherry. I mean, you go to flu season and all these people, hundreds and hundreds, get the flu. What are their bodies all detoxing at the same time? Come on. I've seen it spread throughout my family when I was younger. I've seen it spread through.
The body is filled with viruses. We have viruses all throughout our body.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there is flu. You got the swine flu. You got all these other kinds of flus. You got the Spanish flu. Don't tell me everybody decides to detox all at once. Come on.
No, they don't decide.
It's an epidemic.
They don't decide it. The body decides it.
Well, why do all these bodies decide all at once they're going to detox from the swine flu?
Because winter time is the time that the viruses do, if they are viruses, that the detoxing, the whatever it is gets into your body thrives better in the cold than in the heat. The heat kills it.
Well, okay, then why are they giving these vaccines, this flu vaccine every friggin' winter?
For
They're
money,
injecting people
for
with
money,
flu
for money,
vaccines.
for money, for money.
I would never take that.
I wouldn't
No,
either. They
I'm not
forced
gonna
me to
have
when I
poison
worked in the
put my
hospital. They
body. No,
forced me.
thanks. No, the flu shot is poison in your body,
Yeah.
and then that's going to have to be detoxed out at some point. And so you take other medicines that are poison to the body, and that's going to have to be detoxed at some point. And the best time to detox is in the wintertime.
Well, all at the compliments of our pharmaceutical industry. Who
That's right. That's right.
invested, how many millions was it? It was,
Well, that's just for the psychological, psychiatric.
yeah, just on in 2019, Big Pharma spent 149 million, 228,149 million just to influence Congress. That's how much money they spent on lobbying Congress.
Yeah, so they don't have our best interest in mind.
No,
Not at all.
and not with these vaccines either.
No, not with the medications, not with the vaccines. The body is designed to heal itself. That's how we're designed to do. Your body is intelligent. And why would you put something in your body that's going to do the opposite? It's going to stop the symptom that the body is intelligently producing in order to heal itself, and you're going to put medicine in there that stops it.
Because the pharmaceutical industry tells you, oh yeah, they not only invent the medicines, they invent the diseases also.
That's right.
Yeah. So do you see any other pressing matter that is going on in the United States that gives you a little bit of a headache?
No, it all gives me, it's all good. It's all of it. I mean, it's like turning on the TV and watching this, it's like coming at you from all directions and then trying to decipher, with a lot of these alternative media, the only thing you have is if they start reporting it independently and there's several of them saying the same thing. If just one of them is saying it or two of them is saying it, but even if five of them are saying it, there's really no proof other than looking at what's actually happening itself. Kind of like with these guys disappearing, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, all of a sudden, go on, shut up. It was interesting that this one gal that they were interviewing.
Why do you say disappear? Just because you don't hear from them?
Well, all of a sudden they decide to shut up all at once after running their mouths for years.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they are sitting in Gitmo.
No, but it doesn't mean they're not either if nobody can find them.
Oh. Okay, so I will send you the links. I will find links where they had public appearances and. Yeah.
Well, they had public appearances for Hillary Clinton, only she's a foot shorter than the other Hillary Clinton.
My goodness.
They showed that on mainstream media too.
Yeah.
The thing that gives me a headache, not really a headache, but a figure of speech headache, is watching the people buy into this playbook and not knowing that these controllers, these human controllers, are following instructions from off-world. And so, but the people don't know that. And if you say it to an ordinary person who's asleep,
Can't fathom it.
No, they can't fathom it. They think you're crazy. So, and that's fine. That's fine. But it's really, that's what gives me a headache, is watching the people fall for this over and over. And if this was the very first time that a ruse was played against the people in the United States, well, that would be a whole different story. But this has happened so many times. You would think they'd catch on by now, and they don't.
Yeah.
That's what gives me a headache.
Well, they're starting to.
Yeah, more people are starting to wake up, and that's a very good thing. I'm glad to see that.
You know, they're
But there's
starting
still
to.
enough of them that are snoring asleep, you know.
Oh, I know.
And you
But
can't
the
get to
ones who
them,
are woken
so-
up, they're moving. I mean, this isn't going away. This is not going away.
No, I mean, I cannot foresee a world that is Klaus Schwab's world. I can't see that, you know, you'll have no money and you'll be happy. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's what the words are. You know, you'll rent everything and then somebody else will use it and, you know, they'll rent it. And then, you know, how does that work?
Yeah, what a great business model, you know, you
Oh,
need to rent
absolutely.
everything until you die instead of, let's say, yeah, the 5 vacuum cleaners that you might need during your lifetime, and then you are over with it. No, 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 no. You have to rent it and rent it again and rent it again and rent it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, somebody else has used it and it's, you don't know if it's been cleaned and you don't know what kind of cooties came in that vacuum cleaner from somebody else. And so, you know, it's really not a good formula. And I mean, I can see renting a book and taking it back to the library.
Mhm.
I can see that because, you know, not everybody wants to keep all the books that they read. But I can't see renting a vacuum cleaner and a washing machine and a dryer. You know, I mean, the common things that you use every day, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, you know, clothes. I mean, I'm not going to rent clothes.
No,
Yeah, shampoos and, you know, all of those things. I mean, I can't see that. So, and I can't see that we're all turned into automatons, which is, you know, the transhumanism goal.
Mhm.
I'm, you know, the Borg, I call it, you know, I don't want to be a Borg.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I get that from the Star Trek series. And I think that all of that is predictive programming, although I'm still a big Star Trek fan. I still love the shows, always did, even though I knew that they were predictive programming, but they're still very entertaining. But if you watch them knowing that it's predictive programming, you're like, oh, okay, so one day they're going to want to turn us into porks. And here we are. Here we are.
Yeah, it's insanity. And you know what? Share that list of what the psychotic voices tell schizophrenics.
Yeah.
You can go down that list and there's one-to-one correspondence between what the mainstream media is telling the entire world right now and what the psychotic voices are telling schizophrenic. It's all the same stuff
Yeah.
on a larger scale.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I would say we are largely governed by psychopaths.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And if we hadn't had our internals messed with and our brains messed with and our bodies messed with, you know, through GMOs and fluoride and chlorine and
Drugs and
drugs and, you know, propaganda and all of that whole gamut of stuff,
fluoride.
they would not be able to succeed with this playbook at all.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, people, even if you mention that fluoride, aspartame, I mean, that is, to me, that is kindergarten level of waking up. Yeah. So,
But they're still filling the toothpaste full of it and people are still buying it.
but you can find toothpaste without
Yes.
it. You just have to.
Without it. Yeah.
And yeah, but even if you mention it, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, but I like to drink Diet Coke. I drink it all day long. Yeah, okay, fine.
Well, I got a notice
it's
from,
gonna eat your
I'm a
insides
pilot,
out.
so I got a notice from the FAA when I got my commercial pilot's license that I wasn't allowed to fly an airplane within 24 hours of drinking anything with aspartame in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have saved that letter.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, I would say, this laziness, this apathy of saying, okay, let's just step back and look at this again with fresh eyes. And is it possible that there is something else going on? I mean, for us, it's easy. You know, when I hear, and I really don't care which party it is, if I hear a politician say something, I turn it around and then I probably have the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the
Well,
same with
Trump is not a regular politician. He never was.
I know you love him, we don't.
Yeah, well, you've been listening to CNN over there. They've been broadcasting full time over there.
Well, I don't listen to CNN. I never have.
No,
And I
don't
see
even have a
see
TV.
right through all of the politicians.
Mm.
So, I mean, you know, I mean, I congratulate one politician, Rand Paul, for calling out.
Well, he's a good one.
But he did not go far enough.
That is point one. And point number two, let us not forget, years ago, when there was another voting about if GMO food should be labeled in the United States, Rand Paul voted against it. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys can only, even the ones who are quote unquote good guys, they can only go so far. And then their strings get pulled, and that's as far as they're going to go.
Yeah.
So they're really not.
Yeah, the whole Epstein Island thing was to blackmail them. I mean, so Judge Roberts been blackmailed to the max. You know, a lot of them were blackmailed. They've taken dirty money, and they're being exposed right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pieces to this grand puzzle.
Yes.
And that's what keeps
massive.
That's what keeps the thing going. The whole the mind control part is keep people confused. Give them a whole bunch of different tiny pieces of this puzzle, and hopefully they'll focus just on one little group of pieces, and then they won't notice the rest.
Yeah, and in between, they also launch other balloons to
distractions, major distractions. So, hey, look over here. Don't look over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like even the Black Lives Matter and the racism thing, that's a distraction. That's to keep us divided so that we won't come together and talk. And of course, you know, to put a cinch on that, they're going to have this social distancing and masking up, and that's an MK Ultra tactic right off the bat. That's a mind control brainwashing tactic. And so and then what they do to our children, you know, I mean, if you get a child who is love your cat, if you get a child into school and you tell them all this information up until they're, you know, 6 or 7 or 8 years old, they're going to believe it. They're not going to believe anything else because they don't know any different. And that's going to be their core belief. So that's how they're going to grow up. And that's what they're going to have as a core belief until somebody shatters that.
Yeah.
And that's where that, you know, counterculture stuff, ripping down the statues, destroying the history of the country is coming in too.
And that was all a distraction because, you know, they don't want the people to see the whole picture. That's another piece of the puzzle. Let's have the people focus on, oh, they're destroying all of our national treasures. And that was a bad thing for sure. But there was so much focus on it that all the rest of the stuff that they're doing with the transhumanism and, you know, the whole
the child molestation, the child trafficking,
the whole child trafficking and all of that stuff. Let's not pay attention to that.
Right.
No.
Yeah, they don't want that out. 800,000 kids disappear in the US every year.
You really want to do something against child trafficking? Stop watching porn. And I'm not talking to you personally. Yeah. Because I don't know if you're watching porn or not, and I don't care actually. But that industry is deeply involved in sex trafficking. So
wouldn't
if
be
you really
surprised.
want to do something, you know, cut the Hydra's head and yeah, defund them by no longer watching. That is something that everybody can do. It's easy to do. It doesn't cost, and unless you are addicted to porn, then you have bigger problems anyhow. And
Yeah, another thing that's very powerful that people could do, and it's very, very simple, is what I call pocketbook power.
Yeah.
That means, you know, be aware of what you're purchasing and on purpose, purchase locally, purchase with people that, you know that they're not attached to the government at all. And, you know, that would beef up the American independent businesses, because if people aren't buying from them, they can't stay in business. But if people start buying from them and not buying from the big corporate conglomerations, if they did that in hordes, that would make a big difference, because that would be hitting them where it hurts, because their whole trip is about money.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So if we cut off their money supply by going locally and being independent, growing our own food and making sure that, you know, we grow healthy food, then we don't have to go to the pharmaceuticals and get their drugs because we're healthy. And, you know, that's a very powerful thing, pocketbook power. And every individual can do that.
Yeah.
They don't have to go and march in the street or anything like that. They just have to do that.
Well, I don't think food's going to stop these evil bastards. I mean, they steal kids out of Disneyland. They steal kids off of shopping malls, and they sell them. These people are sick. They need to be locked up. They need to be put away. You know, and there's arrests happening almost every day here. You see on the underground news. They just arrested, I think it was like 15 congressmen and senators from all over the United States for involvement with child trafficking. They got 136 just the other day. I mean, they're making arrests almost daily now for child trafficking and working their way up the line. So they're starting to sweep these people up, and I think that's the only way they can do it, is because nobody wants to tolerate child trafficking. Nobody. I mean, it's just not normal.
Which congressman are you talking about?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember them. It was like, I don't know. There was like 15 from around the United States, congressmen and senators, that they arrested for that.
No.
Oh, well, if you can get back to that, would you send me that? Because I'd like to write down their names.
Well, okay, I can send you that. So I'll send you names too, Judith, when they come up. I'll send them to you.
And then I'd like to see if they're still in office.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they are.
I think so too.
Yeah. These news sources are crap.
Well, you've got Como in
I will
office
be
still.
very
You-
blunt.
You
Crap.
got Newsom still in office.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, if you can get me the names of the 15 or so congressmen and senators that have been arrested for child trafficking, that'd be great. And then I'll, you know, find out if they're still in office.
I mean, 15 is not a small number. It would have been
It would have
reported.
at least been in all the alternative news.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it
And,
was.
well, I didn't see
It
it.
was in the alternative news.
No, it was in your underground news, but not in the alternative news that I know of.
Yeah.
Well, it's in Red Pill
I think
78.
we
That's
may not
probably
be
in
watching
between.
the same channels, but I'm sure that, you know, at least one of them that we see would have that news, and that would be, you know, then I would spread that everywhere. And then everybody, you know, in my group would know, and, you know.
You know what
Well-
I think, if that is really the case, that they are arresting 15 congressmen, they would make a spectacle out of that.
The mainstream wouldn't. The mainstream would not. They would hide that. They wouldn't put that out.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't know whether they would or not, because
Now, these are state. This is at the state level. This isn't at the federal level.
Yeah, okay, but still. in that particular state, their names are probably pretty well known.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would really like to see that list.
Me too.
So can you send that to me, Jerry?
Well, I don't keep this stuff. I see it. I don't keep it.
Well,
I could do a search
really
on it and see.
if it's really, well, please do that, because if it's important, that's an
All
important
right,
story.
I'm going to start sending you this stuff.
No, well, you do
too.
send me a lot of stuff, but send me stuff like that, because that's an important news story and it needs to be verified and then sent everywhere.
Okay, next time I hear any of those, you'll get them.
First, we fact check.
The what?
Because I'm very sorry, but that story sounds like bullshit to me.
Which one?
With the 15 arrests.
Well, I don't know. I can't verify any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes across.
Yeah.
You know, it said which states they were from. It did do that.
Do you remember any of the states?
No. I was just happy that they were starting to arrest these guys.
Okay.
There's so much coming across. I don't remember half of this stuff.
So another big child trafficker that I hear about from various sources, not underground sources, 'cause I don't watch those, is Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a pretty well-known thing with people who worked in Hollywood. And, they can verify what they went through themselves and what they have seen with their own two eyes. And yeah, so that's apparently been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we are in for a wild ride.
Yes.
Not only the United States, buckle your seatbelts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
can
do
say
think,
that again.
I do think it's going to get pretty tough down the road, but I have a feeling that we'll probably come out of this okay if we're still.
We're going to come out of this okay. We've gone too far now. I mean, all this stuff is out. It's out in the public. It's out in the alternative media. It's all over the place.
And I do have one caveat though. If we actually win before the sun novas, that'll be a good thing.
Before what?
Before the sun novas.
Well, we'll probably do that, but the polar change, the magnetic
Well, that's what I'm
field,
talking about.
it's moving.
Yeah, it is.
Fast,
It
very
certainly is.
fast.
But there's a prediction, and it's a pretty good prediction as far as I'm concerned. You know, backed up by a lot of research, and that we're in this 12,000 year cycle.
Yeah.
That the sun has it's not a grand end of the world nova, but it is a nova that will affect much of the planet.
Is that the solar flash that, what's his name?
Well,
talks
that's
about?
the grand minimum that you're talking about, and that'll do some damage on the planet too. And if a person isn't prepared to go without electricity and that sort of thing for a long time, they'll be in serious trouble. But the nova is, I think they're calling it a mini nova. I don't know for sure, but it does happen cyclically every 12,000 years, and we're in that 12,000 year moment. And so there's no prediction as to what year it'll happen. It's like predicting an earthquake. We know that we're headed for the big one on the West Coast at some point. Well, we've been heading for the big one on the West Coast since, 20, 30 years ago. So, it could be any time. But so what I'm saying is if we happen to pull ourselves together and overcome this before that happens, that'll be really good. So, but it's not going to be a million years down the road like they're teaching kids in school. It's going to be maybe not in my lifetime, but it might be in your lifetime, or it might be in my children's lifetime.
Yeah, we will see.
So we better get busy, guys, listeners or whoever, get your shit together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's time to wake up. It's time to actually get off the couch and move if you can. And, you know, start speaking out, start doing what you can to put a wrench in this whole thing by, you know, using your pocketbook power. That's a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
And
And
it
I
can be
would say
anonymous
working
too.
on inner balance is
Very important.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
If you do not have that, and emotionally they can kick you around like a football, then you can have food for 10 years stored. If in your heart and in your mind you believe this is the end, that food will not be very useful. You know what I mean? Because you already told yourself this is the end.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. I mean, even if the worst happens, if you're not balanced within,
yeah,
you're going to have a worse time than if you are balanced within, because there's no reason to fear death. Death is just part of the journey, and you know, I mean, there's nothing to be afraid of there. But people have been taught to be they've been taught to be so afraid of death. It's like, okay, now we have to have this new mandate that there's no more death. We can't have any more death, so we're going to have to control you all for the rest of your lives to prevent you from dying. So we're going to have to turn you into robots for that. But hey, you know what, you know, we're going to have to survive at all costs. Well, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Because at some point we all die.
Yeah.
So if we know that there's nothing to fear about dying, then, you know, what have you got to lose by standing up to a tyrannical government?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's a lot more of us than there are of them.
Yeah, but half of them are sound asleep. So, you know,
yeah,
a lot fewer of us than you.
But that was always the case, you
Yeah.
know, even with the the revolution in the United States, when allegedly they kicked out the British.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah, right.
the British are coming. But actually they never really left.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
No, the city of London has still got their hands on our necks.
Of course.
And Trump knows it. He knows what they did. He's aware.
So I thank you both very, very much for coming on tonight, and you enjoy your day now, and I'm going to bed.
Okay, well, have a good night, Judith, and thank you so much for inviting us on. I enjoyed this show. Thank you.
Okay, Jerry, we will talk later, and you send us the list.
I'll start sending you stuff that you can check out and verify.
Okay, and yeah, that was it. Night flight for today, and
well, it ain't over till it's over.
Exactly.
And
Stay
it ain't
safe
over
and
yet.
sound. Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.